we can always have a follow-up next week or something if needed.
Sounds great. So yeah, thanks for jumping on the call. There are at least still a few people that I would love to introduce you to that you will be working closely with. So first of all, Bhanujeet, Amber, I believe. And so Finn, if you wanted to kind of give your introduction and what all are we doing this year together with you, and then kind of like, the team basically wants to interface with you so they can, start working a bit closely. And because I'm going to be on the road, they're going to play a very heavy role in making sure that everything comes together.
Okay. Well, hey team. This is Finn from Chicken Waffle. We made the cool virtual environments last year for XR Safety Week. I believe it's Metaverse Safety Week this year, correct?
Right.
That's the new name. And so Kavya and I spoke a couple weeks ago about doing this year, and so what I'm kind of hoping on, just as a refresher, because upon trying to write up the SOW, I couldn't remember everything we really discussed. So I was hoping to get just kind of I have my document here ready to kind of create a bulleted list of what the plan is, because I don't really remember what we kind of planned out. I just remember that it was minimal. Like, we don't want to do too much because then that's going to bloat cost and time needed for that. So but I do remember, kind of the goal with this would be, how do we modularize this so that the space is something that is more versatile, so that because that's what we kind of tried to do there at the end last time with the community hub and everything. So I was hoping that it would just be good to go and you wouldn't really need too much to keep going like this year, but sounds like maybe you do. Maybe it's just a little bit of training on the space that currently exists, but I don't really remember exactly what we talked about last time. So if we want to go over like what the goals would be for this year, rather than say what we need to change, but rather just understand how you want the run of show, then that might say like, cool, well, everything we have totally works for that. Let's just change these 5 things and knock it out really fast with a minimal amount of lift for you, so that you don't have to, essentially create a huge budget again this year.
Right.
So Finn, let me kind of break it down, and Bhanu, if we could take notes on that too. So
doing that,
So Finn, if you have the link to currently the Taj Mahal, the platform, could you please share it with Bhanu and Amber? Because the reason why we want to have that is we are going to start conducting some of the technical tests, in a sense, like bringing people into the environment so that they can get comfortable with it. So it's like, if there is a panel, so we just want to do that. Since the environment already exists, these guys can start doing those tech tests so people can get comfortable. And they could organize it all day. Whenever people show up, they show up, so we have those volunteers. So if you could share that link, that would be awesome. Then what we did agree to the last time we spoke is we need a community track and we need a XRSI track. So the XRSI programming is what we will record and live stream. The community track, we may or may not record depending on volunteers and availability. We may patch that back to our YouTube channel if needed. But those 2 tracks, so last year we only had the 1 closed environment. We basically want to replicate that and now have 2 of those rooms. So it shouldn't be a problem. Basically, we're running 2 instances. They would be labeled differently. So basically, we're now going to have 2 portals to go in there. So they would be labeled differently. Hey, you want to go to XRSI programming? That's where this is happening. You want to go to the community programming? That's where this is happening. There are a few other nuances that we discussed. We discussed that we want to make those banners more kings and queens like. So like the Metaverse Safety Week banner to be more, not just a corporate banner, something sitting there, but more like a, you know, like a curtain or something that I showed you from Sansar, that kind of thing, where it looks more like in person, kind of something hanging from the pole or something like that. Other things we discussed is, just handing over to you the logos, etc. There are a few things that are different. So on each day, we have the sponsor. So we have the headline sponsor, which is Meta. So that's going to be like Meta logo in all the screens. So on one side, we would have the host, XRSI, headliner, Meta. And on the other side of the screen, we will have the track sponsor. And then the track sponsor would also get like half of the page of the screen. At the bottom half of the page, we will display all of our, if there are not enough sponsors, then we will display our community partners logos. But that would be the screen for both the community track as well as the main track, which would be the XRSI track. We would still keep the main stage in the Taj Mahal, the lobby area. We'll keep it reserved for like our closing sessions, where the closing for each, like the opening keynote and the closing keynote will happen on the outside. And I don't know, what do you recommend? Is it advisable to do the opening, closing outside and then kind of move everything?
It cut out a little bit there.
Or do you think that we should do so should we do all of the events kind of on that inside conference room, or should we create like opening, closing keynote on the outside at the Taj Mahal? What do you think?
What I think personally is the Taj Mahal garden space is designed to be more of a communal space. So for sponsorship, provenance and networking and a live space that's there. But then again, we also changed that space up there at the end to have the final talk. So there's two versions of that space. There's the one that was the kind of communal space that you could jump up and kind of anytime if people are in there say, hey, kind of like that room ran the entire week, or there was one every day because it can only be up for 24 hours. So we just had like an all day room for that each day that had individual portals for those talks. And then the rooms, the speaker halls, if you will, like last year there was just one speaker hall, but this year, for instance, there'll be two speaker halls, a community speaker hall and an XRSI track speaker hall, or however you want to name those two, but essentially there'll be two speaker halls. And when you go into those, there will be the signage, like the waist high like signage like you'd see at in a speaker hall that says either community track or whichever track it is.
XRSI track, the main XRSI programming,
And so then you go in there, and then the benefit of that space is it draws all the attention into one spot, which is the speaker. It's a beautiful ornate space, but it still keeps your focus on the speaker. So I feel like that's a really good space for all the talks, 100%, and then leave the other space for like, the communal, like this is just for, being able to show the sponsors with more space than just one panel next to the presentation. This allows each one to have a bigger resonance and just the kind of set the mood for this, you're going to India in the metaverse, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's how I would treat it personally.
I am totally with you. I'm totally with you. And that's a great recommendation. And that way there is no confusion which track is happening, which speaker is where. So we'll just keep everything in the speaker room. The one thing though, I want to say is so we did kind of talk about organizing the Taj Mahal a little bit differently this time. So I have my one NFT, which is about, the formation of XRSI. And then we have an astronaut, Finn, who is the first African-American woman to fly the spaceship. She has her own NFT, and we have committed to showcase her NFT in the virtual world. So that's something we want to, let's call it the lobby. So we want those two NFTs showcased in the lobby.
Or the garden, I think, is what we refer to it as.
Yeah, let's call it the garden. So we definitely want to showcase those two NFTs in the garden. And then we agreed to do the red carpet photographing, where we could have like the banner on the background.
So like a step and repeat?
Yeah, exactly. So like the Metaverse Safety Week background. And then maybe we have one that is just all Metaverse Safety Week background, 2022 with the dates, etc. But then the other one could be where we have all the sponsors and partners logos, so people can go take pictures of their avatars over there. So those are like 4 kind of different nuances which can be incorporated within the Taj Mahal.
Okay, so you said 2 step and repeat areas. One that's a MSW step and repeat, and one that's a sponsor step and repeat.
Sponsor as well as community partners. Well, the only thing is we don't know if there will be enough sponsor. So we want to kind of fill that.
Sponsor/partners. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sponsor/partners. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll
create a collage of those logos, and then we'll hand it over to you. But those could only happen like almost like towards the end.
Now, where do you want that? Do you want that in a? So maybe we put that. You know how, remember whenever you came in there, you can either face the Taj Mahal or you can face the other direction, which is still cool and ornate. It's like the outer wall, right?
Yeah.
The entrance. And so where the butterflies are and stuff. So we could put those 2 step and repeats kind of side by side, so that you could either stand over here and do this one or stand over here and do this one, and it wouldn't obscure anything else, and it would still look like kind of like branding, signage, and everything. Because right now we just have those big ones there, and then I could come up with something that looks like, as you described, a kings and queens ornate, some kind of banner or fabric, something. I think I know what you mean, but that one that you showed me, since you don't have that 3D model, if you could like take a picture of that, like a screenshot or something of the one you were talking about, just so I have it fresh in my mind of the one you're talking about.
So Bhanu, if you could go to sansar.com, go to worlds, and then go to the Taj, THETAJ, and then you'll be able to see pictures on there. So let's just like hand over that link to Finn. And then Finn, there is tons of pictures on there. So you can gather that sort of inspiration from there, from that link. That's what I was showing to you. It was something that I created in 2018 in Sansar.
Okay. And you said it's under Taj?
The Taj, Sansar, the Taj.
I found it.
Cool. So as long as, it doesn't obstruct the view and you are the experience creator, as long as like, hey, I go in and then I'm like, oh, check this out, I want to take a picture. Like it's all about the experience of the people. And then at the moment, Bhanu, do we have any other customization that we may have committed to anybody besides Dr. Proctor?
No, Kavya, we haven't committed any customization to anybody, for sure.
Right. There is something about, I believe, if Finn, we have some conversation with Accenture and a couple of other sponsors who haven't even said that they are sponsors. They've just like, kind of committed that they will support. So there may be some, it may be that we give them some kind of a custom place where they could showcase their own step thing or their logo. But that's
kind
the
of
only
exhibition
other piece I can think of.
Yeah.
Like if they want wanted to showcase some logo. That's the only thing I can think of. But today, as of today, we don't have that. So that's something that we will factor in if we need to. But for today, those are all the things that we have. I know we agreed that you will be available all 5 days. So for, the price, we don't have to discuss that price here, but Bhanu can include that price and the 5-day troubleshoot, full all day kind of commitment with you.
Okay.
So we can include that in the SOW as well. Then we have the camera person whose name is Carlos, and he is going to actually want to have to talk to you about some of the camera angles. Maybe he would like you to draw a, kind of like a cross where we want the speaker to stand, so there is no ambiguity. There is one other aspect that might come into play. So we have like the talks, then we have like the interviews, then we have the panel. So these are 3 different formats. So talks are just single person. We need the screenplay. We need their slides. The interviews are 2 to 3 people. It's either fireside chat or it's a 3 people interview. Okay, sorry, just checking. It's not my spot. Stop. And then the third thing is the panel. The panel is 3 speakers or 4 speakers. Well, no, it's 3 speakers and 1 moderator, right?
Yes. It's 3 speakers and 1 moderator. Four people.
Yeah. So there is 4 people on the stage for that. Remember the last time we kind of spun the thing and put the stand up there? I mean, those were beautiful stands. If you wanted to somehow, because we have time, kind of customize them in some way or put a logo or label or anything there, that's totally fine. Would only be Metaverse Safety Week logo, nothing else. But instead of logo, I feel like some kind of a design would be a better idea. So it's not plain. And those are things that you will notice that the Sansar design is like, that's the way. So like kind of trying to make it more elegant as much as possible. Logos are anyways going to be displayed on the screen, etc. So we should be good there. So those are the only things I can think of at the moment.
So you said for the panels, you said 4 people. I mean, is every single panel discussion, is every one of them going to have 3 speakers and 1 moderator for every single one? Is it so it's going to be the exact same for every one of them? Exact
format. Yeah, exactly. And we will make sure of that. And if somebody is a no-show, then somebody is a no-show.
Then you'll just have an empty pedestal podium.
Basically, no, but in most cases, I'll just jump in. We'll have speakers on the standby where we will have at least 2 or 3 speakers on standby. We have like 150 advisors. I'll allocate them, basically be like, hey, yo, jump up. We are all very savvy, so we can take part in those discussions.
Okay. I think I got it. Let me just go back through my notes here then and see if we missed anything. Share the links for the individual worlds that are currently up there that are, viewable and open. There's going to be 2 tracks for the speaker halls. There's going to be a community track and an XRSI track. There's going to be the updated garden with 2 step and repeats, one for the MSW and one for the sponsors and partners. There's going to be on the speaker hall itself, in the speaker hall, it's going to have Meta on the left side as the headline sponsor. And then on the right panel, that's going to be for the community sponsors and partners. And then let's see, then we're going to update the NFTs in the garden for yours, which I think is already there in one of them, and then add one for the astronaut you're talking about. So if I get the link for that, then I can prepare that. And then
so next to Meta as a headliner, we also want to place XRSI. So headliner and XRSI, like because we are the host, we want to place both of them sort of kind of in the same capacity.
Okay. I took note of that.
I want your one recommendation on it, Finn. So we have an astronaut, we have Congresswoman Lori Tarhan, we have the E-Safety Commissioner of Australia, we have folks from NHS. I was wondering if we should showcase some of these speakers. And we also have the permission to use their logo. And, so like the Congresswoman already has like the US flag on the background. So I wonder if we could even just like we're doing the step up, the picture thing, we're also doing the logos, etc. Maybe there is
Like
a section somewhere to showcase key speakers where, people visit the lobby and they're like, holy shit, a congresswoman is speaking. Oh my God, an astronaut. So it's kind of like blowing up really featuring some of these speakers. And then and then showcasing them when they are speaking as well. So like on day one, blah, 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 which is a detail, something Bhanu can hand over, like their time of speech, who they are a little bit, as well as if they have any affiliation or logo, we can use that. So there are some really elite speakers that we could showcase in the lobby so people can start to associate that with like, oh my God, Metaverse Safety Week, these congresswomen are going to show up, et cetera, et cetera.
Kind of like you do on a conference homepage where you scroll down and you see the top 12 or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we have those, we have those nice big rectangular signage, panels. And so like we could just replace, like there's a lot of those and we can angle them or, do that however. And so what I'll do is I can get you the like a couple of those images. So that way on your side, if you're like, okay, this is what we want on the panel, this is how we want that or whatever. And those things, I mean, what I'm planning, because as you know, all this stuff changes like week before you're going to want changes. It's just inevitable because you're going to have some new sponsors show up and you're going to have the week of always changes before a conference, because that's whenever all the sponsors finally send you money. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
finally agree.
Yeah.
That's every conference. So what I'm gonna structure this as is like I'm going to build some of these panels and the sponsors and stuff. What I'm going to do is like I'm gonna space them out to where it looks good with the sponsors we have. But what we'll do is kind of 2 sprints, one for an initial sprint to know that, worst case scenario, here it is and it's ready. And then we'll wait until the very end, right before the second sprint. So we add anybody. So because we don't want to do five sprints each time one more person adds, we do another sprint. What we'll do is we'll just wait until that final week right before and do a final sprint with adding any of the last minute additions. You know what I mean?
That sounds good. Finn, have you seen Wave VR, Wave XR? They have like these panels. If you go into Wave VR, they have like rotating waves, like Wave VR, Wave XR.
Oh yeah,
it's the music concert platforms, right? Oh, you are the co-founder. Well, the panels they have when you go there, and they're like showcasing like when this will begin. And then you can kind of go in there. So I wonder if we could even embed on that speaker portal, the panel that you will put there where you will feature the speaker on one side and feature like the community partners on the other side. We can even embed like clicking on it and just moving right to the conference room. Just like you guys have at Wave.
I'm not sure I understand what you mean there.
Okay, so when you go to Wave VR in the lobby, you have these banners of like, hey, emoji is gonna play on this day. And when you click on that banner, you actually go to the DJ booth. So I was curious if we could actually do, we don't have to link it, but I'm just saying like we could host feature those speakers, just like those panels are featured at Wave VR.
Yeah, the thing is
in the garden.
Yeah, the only thing to think about there is the trouble of pagination, because basically there's a lot, like with Wave, they have like 4 things featured there that you can look at, but we're talking about a lot more panels than just 4 panels, right? So the only problem becomes, if you're going to try to feature a bunch of those individual things, then you're going to end up with 30 panels, to click on or to view. And so the difficulty is to...
Oh no, just the elite ones. So like 4, 5, or whatever 6 maximum that we will feature, like the Congresswoman, this one. So there will definitely be the portal to go to the speaker room as a completely separate thing. It's like, hey, go to the speaker room here. But then what I'm saying is the Congresswoman, the astronaut, the regulator, etc. We could like feature them through that kind of a showcasing. It was just a suggestion, but I leave it to you as a creator.
Okay, I'll scratch my head on that, and again, that might be something for the final sprint once everything's locked in and we know which ones are essentially featured on the homepage. What I'll essentially do, what I'm planning to do with this first sprint is essentially turn the existing space with as minimal changes as possible to bring the new programming that you've brought to MetaverseSafetyWeek.org to the world. You know what I mean? So that it feels like an extension of your homepage, so that it matches the brand, it matches the theme, and therefore, as we get closer to the thing and you update that homepage, that those things that you've decided to feature on the homepage are the things that I can take direction from. So I'm not shooting into the gray matter. It's something that reflects the stuff that's important enough to update the homepage with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Just so you know, the feature section, it is to be updated within this week. So currently it's not as intended, but it will be after this week. Bhanu, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. As in, I want to get wanted to understand how will the moderation of audience as well as the panelists, speakers, and other people who will be joining the space will be done. As in, because I remember Kavya telling us about there's a process of moderating audiences and everything. So just wanted to understand, and how are we going to manage this? How many people will be required for this and all of that?
Have you ever hosted anything in AltSpace before?
No.
Okay. Well, so AltSpace has, for instance, will you be there during the week, like being one of the, for instance, the moderators, the people making sure that, like, for instance, if you were to be that role, and it sounds like you are, then what it is like, I'll have your information as well as whoever else's information, like your AltSpace logon name and your username. And I'll add you to the list of like moderators and admin. And then at any time you can just click on somebody and mute them, or you can click on somebody and then boot them, or you can click on somebody and ban them completely where they can't even come back in. And so you as a moderator and admin have the ability to kick anybody, right? And then how we did it last time was, and it worked out really well, was the best ones were the panels, because the hardest things to do are a single speaker trying to coordinate like a presentation up on the screen, slideshow and stuff like that. Like that was the only spot that ended up having any kind of failure opportunity. Whereas like if it's just like, here's the backdrop and it's the name of the panel and their headshots and their names underneath it, and below them is their avatar standing in front of the podiums and they're speaking, that's like, not only is it the most fail safe, it's what really people get a lot more out of whenever it's like a panel. And so what I would recommend on structuring these panels is, it's going to be, because I don't remember how long are the panels going to be. Are they half an hour?
60 minutes. 60 minutes.
So, that when you have 4 people, it's pretty easy to eat up that time once everybody gets their opinions, on 5 or 6 different questions, and that's about it, right? And so, the failure point is whenever people are trying to be like, oh, well, you go to the slide 6 and play this video and blah, 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 and trying to coordinate all that, whenever really people are getting the best out of just hearing these people speak and having the presence. So what I'd recommend on those is like, so we'll have essentially one slide deck, and the slide deck will be each of those panels, like each of the panel backdrops. And then so that therefore, and with like with an intermediate in between where it's like upcoming at such and such is this one, right? And then that one is just like literally a Google slide deck that we have each of those panels, so it can be updated until the point of, you know, the day of, right? It could be updated. And then that way it's the, you know, rather there'll be two of them, one for the community track and one for the XRSI track. And then that's just going to be live. That's going to be fed into the world, into the 3D world on that backdrop. And that way, when the next sessions, you know, when the next session is, or when that session is over, we change to the next slide, which is like, thank you, please stay tuned for this. And, in 10 minutes or whatever. And then like you hit the next, and then it's that backdrop, or, and so it just like boom, 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 boom. And you just keep one, you don't have to like, because last year
change the slides every time there's a new
talk. Well, yeah, because the headache for poor Joshua had to like figure that whole streaming thing out, and it was just and though they picked it up, like Joshua did a great job, doing that. It was still more headache than it needed to be. Like if we simplify it, it just makes it easier for organization, right?
Yeah. So there
especially
can be
one
probably going to be deck for each day. Yeah. No, so you are suggesting there can be one deck for each day separately, right? For each day we can have
panels.
Yeah,
for the panels.
For the panels.
Yeah.
Right.
For the talks, there will certainly still be some other decks. One thing, as we're talking about adminning, Finn, we saw a total shit show and a disaster happen when EFF did the panel, because they never told us who were the usernames. Then they had like 20 people on the stage. Nobody knew who was talking. It was a really terrible experience. Well, anyway, it was not so bad, but it was still kind of like so much room for improvement. So one thing that we do need to ensure, Bhanu, is that we gather the usernames of the speakers, because they will be the only people allowed on the stage. So there will be collision, so nobody else can jump up on the stage.
Yeah, and then just like like she's saying, just like how I add you as admin, I can add those names as presenters, and so they'll be able to go through that collision that the audience won't be able to like teleport onto the stage, but they will. So like they'll be able to jump up there and present, but the audience will not. They won't be able to even get up there. So that'll help that. And then once they get on stage, the speaker, it's called a speaker volume or presenter volume, and then once they enter that presenter volume, their voice goes to 2D, so it's no longer spatial audio, it's room wide audio, so that everyone can hear them clearly. And so what we'll do is, once we get this set up, we'll plan for at some point this next month, I can get you in there and just like walk you through, you and whoever else might be doing that stuff. And like if it's Carlos, the same Carlos that I know that does this a lot, like
Carlos Austin.
So I know him, and we've worked together in the past, so like he's really savvy on all this stuff, so he knows. I don't have to explain anything to him. He's done this so many times that he knows the tools just fine. So really, it'll just be like, the best thing for Carlos, what I would recommend is just let him run with it, because every time we've just let him run with it, he's done a great job. And so
amazing.
Exactly. And he's also going to have a +1. And then lastly, Finn, one thing that we do need to talk about is the arrangement of the Metaverse Safety Week channel on the Allspace VR, and the codes for each of these events, etc., and how they will be coded back on the website. Because now that we have time, we can establish all those codes, all those things, and track them back to the website, so people can click on the website, teleport to that very, very room, wherever the event is happening. We need to agree that those codes will not change, so that's the one thing, like we make it solid and they're all like exactly the same. And then how do we how do we feature, like, this is something that Microsoft is also a supporter in the back end. They're not, they might even send their logo, etc. So Allspace VR is something that you've worked with in the past. Like, can you get with their team and try to, like, do we open our own Metaverse Safety Week channel this year?
I believe it's an
last year we
XR.
had the XR Safety Week channel. But I think we need to open the other channel for Metaverse Safety Week.
Sure, we can just rename the current one if we want, or whatever you want there. Yeah.
We can? Okay. Because, if we can rename and relabel with our Metaverse Safety Week, then that's fine. But, like, I don't know if it earns us any creds for being around for that long or something. It doesn't matter to me. What the main thing is, if you can move some people to feature our event, that would be necessary. And I'm pretty sure Allspace VR will be very happy to do so.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Once we have, like you said, once we have, these are the events here, once we have that spreadsheet of here are the events, here's the rundown, here's the links. That's specifically what I'll share with the Allspace team. And then they will, but I have a preferred partner status with them too. So I can actually, now I can feature them myself. I don't have to request for featuring now. I have the ability to make them front, headliner events now myself. Because I promised not to abuse it. And so this is specifically why, because like last year and all these different things that I've done for them, instead of me having to request it, they're like, okay, they trust me. I'm not going to mess it up. And I'm going to use it for this specific reason, which is why they promoted me to the preferred partner status. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah. And then even last year, they sent out information about it in newsletter, etc. So that would be great. Yeah.
So that's what essentially that comes from. Yeah. And so I'll make sure to, what I'll do is once we get the full program in place where we say like, here it is, here's the world, it's ready. Like I said, that first sprint is done. Essentially, that's when I'll formulate an email with those links and the information about the thing and point them to the XRs, the Metaverse Safety Week.org website and everything, and prepare a little blurb. And then what they essentially do, their community person, they just take that. They usually take the description of the event, and they just prepare their social media blasts and their email blasts. They just copy and paste the description for the event into that email. So like that's essentially what they do. So we'll just send them the link to the planned event that's on the calendar that's ready, and then they will formulate a community blast about and just essentially it'll be verbatim of how we described the event. So once we are good with it and you've looked over those and you say, cool, we like how this is worded, then we just reach out to them and say, hey, can we get promoted, and then they'll say like, cool, and they'll just promote specifically what we are obviously okay with it saying. You know what I mean?
Perfect. So Bhanu, just for your knowledge, one thing that we should mark here is that now we can relabel or add label to all of our programming, Allspace VR label, Allspace VR logo. So people can, make their, it can enter their brain that it's happening in Allspace VR. We were like literally just waiting to finalize this conversation. And let's, Finn, if you're okay with it, before I hit the road, I would love to sign the SOW so we can establish some of those dates, etc., payments, etc., and then we can get that going. I'm doing the same thing with Carlos too.
Yeah, no problem. I'll get these notes put into a bulleted list with milestones and plan and time and payments and send it over.
Right. And if you could please include the use of the environment for future is sort of included in your services. So whenever we use the next time the environment, we only pay for customization, which was our previous agreement anyway.
Yeah, I'm just gonna literally, I'm taking these notes inside of the old SOW, the first SOW that we finalized. So I'm just going to literally change the milestone areas, but I'm going to leave the other parts of the agreement the same as we already agreed to. So there's no back and forth.
Sounds
what
great.
I mean?
Sounds great. And if ever there is anything, Bhanu is your point of contact. Bhanu, could you please share with Finn either your Signal, WhatsApp, etc., and take Tim's number as well, so that you guys could be in contact with each other. And then we'll do the same with Carlos as well. He prefers text messages for ease and convenience. So the core team here, at least now we know the production team. Bhanujeet is the events director and kind of playing the role Joshua played last year. Joshua still is able to just give us feedback just because he played a role last year. So he might show up in our next meeting sometime to say, hey, we did this great last year. Let's do this next year, and let's do this better this year, etc. But beyond that, Joshua wouldn't necessarily be able to do much of MC or anything else. He might show up, but we can't count on him because he's working with Nike now, full-time job. Yeah. So I think this is it. I'm pretty much about to get off the train, so this was like perfect timing. Unless
One
there is
quick
anything
question
else.
I have.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yep.
So is the participant upper limit still 50 individuals for each of the instance, or how are we going to manage that thing? As in, if we have more than 50 people, and what's the catch here?
Yeah, so the way it works is it's 50 people max per instance per room, but thousands and thousands total per event. And then they get broken into 50 per room, but the presenters are in every instance. So like everyone, like if you're in room number 3, because there's already 50 in 1 and 50 in 2, and you join and you get put into room 3 with 15 people or something as they're adding, the presenter, whoever's on stage is automatically it's called front row, where essentially they're in every instance and you hear them in every instance. The same presentation is going on for everyone, but then the audience is segmented into groups of 50.
Understood. So the instances will get created automatically by the server once it sees more people are joining?
Correct.
Okay, got it. That's great.
Yeah, that's really where AltSpace is still winning in first place above like Horizon Worlds and stuff like that, is that their infrastructure built with Microsoft's Azure, framework, and everything that AltSpace has done programmatically to build their platform allows that specific feature is what makes it the best platform to host conferences in, is because it's all handled for you, versus like a lot of these other events, it's like for instance, John Carmack's Q&A, only 20 people could get in, and that's it. There was no instances. There's just the first 20 people, and they're the one. And actually, this year you had to like put into a waiting list to get an invite, and only those people that got invites were the ones. So, and so AltSpace allows you to anybody to get in, and also just run on a Mac or a PC laptop. You know what I mean? And
still that's the main feature. Yeah, absolutely.
So, and they said Horizons is going that way too, but it's really more about connectivity and server instancing, which allows for larger events. Like Horizon Worlds is still more of a communal space that's cool to go experience individual spaces that are permanent spaces that you can go through and like experience the interactivity, because they have a lot more interactivity opportunities in Horizon Worlds that you can script and do cool triggered animations that AltSpace doesn't have. But AltSpace is better for specifically something like this, where you're going to host a conference with a bunch of people and then have a space that just lives, that if you want to, the goal of how I built that last space was make it very modular, so that if we had to come back in this year, we had to make minimal changes. There's some aesthetic changes that are going to require rebuilding, rebaking light maps, the game dev side of what I do, but potentially after this year, then maybe next year we have to do even less of that, and all we really have to do is update the signage, the sponsors, the featured, but like all the actual the permanent structures is done, right? If all we have to do is change the JPEGs out for the textures of the panels, then that's great. You know what I mean?
Right. No, that's really awesome, as modular as it can be.
Finn, one more thing, and this is outside of our SOW. I will ask you to potentially, and I can jump on that video if you need me to, but you and I together, or you yourself, I will do the same. I'm asking every advisor to be like, hey, 10th to 15th is Metaverse Safety Week. I'm the creator of the environment. You'll see, and so just like encouraging people, make it like 30 seconds to like 90 seconds and potentially push it out from all your, channels, socials, etc. So like just a video, you basically, and you can even talk about, if you wanted to make it more like a 1 minute, 30 seconds, you could say, hey, we did this last year and, Kavya talked about like this and that, whatever, casual kind of inviting people. So let's kind of like, this is us now, instead of like, hey, is, Chicken Waffle or any other event. Like, I really want to continue this partnership as like, hey, now rally people to really gain out of it. And let's get the exposure that you deserve now. So like, use that time and that social to really own in the fact that you're the creator of this thing. And all these amazing people are gonna be there. Safety is a really important aspect when you create. So this is something that you're really, really proud to be part of, etc.
Sure. Yeah, I can put something together for you.
Awesome. Yeah, and we'll amplify, just tag us, etc. And yeah, Bhanu, any other questions? I think we have all the social media handles from Finn. I think we're good for now. I'll send this recording to Carlos and Joshua, and we can use this recording to share with all the volunteers as well.
Right.
Let's have a next time, if possible, a in-word meeting, if possible, Finn, whenever our instance is ready. So you can share the link with us, share the link for existing instance as well, in case we find somebody, in case we want to do walkthroughs.
Sure.
But yeah, so.
Sounds good.
Cool. I'm hopping into an Uber, but I'll leave you to it if you want to continue the discussion further. But I think I'm definitely solid.
Yeah, I think I have what I need here.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Okay.
Thank you,
Yeah,
man.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Finn.
let's
Thank you
find
for your
this.
time. Let's connect separately. For sure.
Yep. Okay. Take care. Bye.